Good morning, everybody. We have had a couple of great speakers. I am excited to be here. Before I get into the presentation, special thank you to Stephanie, to Lisa, for inviting me to share a little bit with this group this morning about how land use, economic development, transportation are all deeply interrelated, and also to hopefully get us thinking together about the tremendous opportunities that exist if we can get ahead of the curve in terms of land use. Specifically, what I would like to talk with you about today, first a little background on the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, who we are, what we do. Then we'll talk about some of the existing business advantages that are already present in Southern Nevada. We'll pose the billion-dollar question, more on that to come, and talk a little bit about our comprehensive economic development strategy, how that relates to the goals of the Southern Nevada Strong Regional Plan, and then we'll get to the speakers you really want to hear from, our local elected officials, to talk about their vision for opportunity sites and how we together can integrate the principles of Southern Nevada Strong going forward. So first, what is LVGEA? People often ask me this question: how would you describe what you do on a daily basis? A couple of ways. The first is that we're a one-stop shop for job growth, business attraction, retention, and expansion. That's our top priority. The second way I would describe what we do is to steal a quote from one of my favorite authors, Jim Clifton from Gallup Polling. He's the chairman CEO with Gallup Polling, and he was actually at the preview event with the chamber not too long ago here in town. And here's what he has to say: the single most important thing that a community can do to create meaningful employment opportunities for residents is to bring together public, private, educational leaders around a common agenda. Move forward together. When that happens, you get the magic of economic development and a public-private partnership. That's what we're about at LVGEA. Focused on jobs, focused on moving the community forward together. Private-public partnership, in that now about 60 to 70% of our financing comes from the private sector. We're organized as a 501c6. Structured back in 2013, have been in rapid growth mode. Doubled the size of our staff from 9 up to 22, doubled the size of our budget to right around $5.5 million, all in an effort to become the community and economic development organization that Southern Nevada is telling us we need to be to help lead this region into the future. Focus areas. What do we work on a daily basis? Top of the list is to lead, facilitate, and steward regional economic development, working with partners. We know that our team is only going to be so big, but when we can engage the private sector, when we can engage educational leaders, when we can engage community activists and leaders, that's when you get significant results. So retain, attract, expand industries is our first priority. Job number 2 is to enhance Southern Nevada's position as a global business location. You heard from Mayor Hancock how the future is about being globally competitive, not competing within our region as much. We know that today we are a global tourism destination. In the future, we will and need to become a global business destination in order to be successful. And then our third focus area is to become an engine of community development. Work more on workforce development, community building, planning, putting in place the product that we need to be successful in the future, supporting the efforts of Southern Nevada Strong. So let's talk about what exists today, some of the marketing attributes, locational advantages that exist for Southern Nevada. First, if you look at taxes, we have one of the best tax climates in the United States. No corporate admissions, personal income, unitary franchise, estate, inheritance tax. That's the starting point. Then you move into also very competitive sales and property tax rates. We're positioned, we like to say, as the crossroads of the Southwest. Our proximity to major markets, LA, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, is a key advantage for us. And in particular, going into the future as I-11 comes to fruition, we think the goods movement through Southern Nevada is going to be pretty dramatic. And we have a chance to significantly grow our logistics, warehousing, distribution industry as a result. More advantages. Here you can see rail delivery times, generally more competitive than cities that we typically stack up against. Corporate travel costs here, low compared to markets that we compete against. And office industrial properties, relatively affordable. As a side note, here I will share that we have limited product availability for large industrial buildings. During the last calendar year, because we couldn't meet the need in terms of having existing large industrial buildings, we had 10 of those clients that were looking for 300 up to 1 million square feet, shortlisted Southern Nevada. Because the buildings didn't exist here, they were forced to go to other locations. That's one of the things we need to work on from a planning approach. This slide has shown you that for what is here, it's relatively cost competitive. Actually, this is my office industrial slide showing the price comparisons. So if you talk to site selectors, they'll say, hey, taxes, operating costs, Nevada, you're among the best in the country, maybe the top of that list. But that brings us to what I would call the billion-dollar question. Here's what I want the group to think about. The advantages that we have in place today, do you believe they'll bring the industries of tomorrow? If we can answer this question correctly, it literally means billions of dollars in capital investment, new industries, new jobs. Very important that we get this right. To help answer that question, I want to walk you through our thought process at LVGEA. First, let's dig into our Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS. This is the region's economic development roadmap, approved by the Federal Economic Development Administration, created by hundreds of public, private, educational leaders, where we all agreed together on the projects, programs, services, the direction, the strategy, the target industries that are most beneficial for Southern Nevada. I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of that document, but what I do want to draw your attention to is the target industries, right? We went through an in-depth process to try and identify those industries that will be most successful, where we have the greatest opportunity for the next 5 to 10 years. We looked at location quotients, what exists today, what the community wants to see in the future, what our competition is doing, and industries where they have high growth rates, right, where the opportunities are bright. Here's our list. Top of the list, aerospace, defense, unmanned aerial systems, right? You probably heard the recent FAA designation of Nevada as a test site in the UAS industry. This is huge. This is going to generate 15,000 jobs over the next 10 years just in testing. If we can position ourselves to attract the manufacturing, the rest of that supply chain, the opportunities here are basically endless. Very exciting. Business and IT ecosystems, if you look at what Switch is doing, what the Downtown Project is doing, we're changing our culture, being more attractive to startup, mid-range tech firms. We think there's a lot of opportunity to grow there. The third is logistics, warehousing, assembly. As I-11 comes to fruition, as we play upon our existing infrastructure advantages, our position within the Southwest, there is a lot of room to grow in that industry. Healthcare and life sciences, we're noticeably underserved in this industry. Clean tech, renewable, big projects there may have slowed down recently, but there's still some of those big projects in the pipeline, and it made it on our list as a target. Global finance and banking, we've seen increasing interest from communities really around the world in doing more for global finance and banking here in Southern Nevada. And then our traditional industry, global tourism, gaming, tourism, and entertainment rounds out the list. Now, here's what I want to draw your attention to. Those in orange are the ones where we need to make the most change in terms of on-the-ground development patterns in order to be successful. You can look at, we talked about the advantages that exist today. You can see where we've been successful, where we haven't. I would contend that those in orange are the areas where we need to make some changes if we're going to really attract those industries. And not coincidentally, this is what Southern Nevada Strong is focused on. Those are the ones in orange are the opportunities most integrated into the regional plan. So let's ask the question, how are land use and economic development so interrelated? What's the relationship? I think it's primarily two reasons, two ways. First, we need to put a higher priority on attracting the workforce of tomorrow. This has changed in the world of economic development in terms of site selection. The companies that we get involved with that are looking at Southern Nevada, it's less about cost and incentives, more about workforce. Can you create a community where my workers want to live, work, and play? And if you can bring my workers, then I want to be there too. And especially those industries that were highlighted in orange don't tend to be that cost sensitive. It's the top of the list is workforce. The other way that I think land use and economic development are really tied together is putting the attributes in place for our businesses to be successful. We need to connect them to transportation infrastructure so that they can bring their employees in relatively easily. We need existing product that meets the needs of demand. We need access to other markets. We need appropriate zoning so that businesses are surrounded by peer organizations. Let's talk a little bit about communities that are successful, right? So in those target industries, regions around the country where they're having success, what do they look like? What do they prioritize? What's working? First, they have some place-based characteristics. They have vibrant mixed-use commercial areas, a variety of housing types, including multifamily rental, easy multimodal access to their employment areas. Third place is for networking, that is not just home and work, but public access places in a professional setting where you can get together and have those business meetings, networking meetings, and open spaces, recreational opportunities. They're focused on human capital. They have great educational systems, a robust, talented existing labor force, and they connect what's on the horizon for economic development to higher education, to K through 12. Now, let's talk about how this is related in the Southern Nevada Strong Regional Plan. The themes that you've heard about, first, improve economic competitiveness and education, right? If we do this well, not only does it reduce the income gap, but it helps us attract those industries of the future. It's one of the most productive investments we can make in terms of our community, growing our economic base. Investing in complete communities, the workers of the future are telling us they want a place where they can live, work, and play in relatively close proximity, right? So we need all those attributes together in generally one place in order to attract that next generation of workers. And our third theme is to increase transportation choice. There is tremendous investment. You heard from Mayor Hancock that the transit nodes, when you start looking at projects like light rail, the spin-off opportunities from the private sector are simply amazing. So when you look at transportation as an investment for the greater economic good, we think it pencils out really well. This is what our employers are telling us. Again, they want access so they can bring in their workforce and attract that next generation of worker that increasingly, you look at the younger the worker, the less likely they are to want a driver's license or to own a car, right? They want to be focused on that screen instead. We can make that happen. I want to draw your attention to, so my family and I, we moved here 7 months ago from Southern California. The picture in the upper left, that's actually my wife, our dog Dayton, and 2 boys, Lincoln and Ethan. And I remember my wife saying, move me anywhere in the country. Just find me a community where I can bike to work, to school, to a retail center, right? That was the top of her list. And I think is increasingly important, those kind of options for transportation into the future. It's not just about automobiles, it's the mix, biking, transit, buses, light rail, having all those access points so you have different options to get from point A to point B. And also, you can't really see it on this picture, but those two boys, it's embarrassing, but they're wearing reflective triangle, construction triangles on their back because their path to school doesn't have a great bike trail. Right? And so in order to keep them safe, we put reflective triangles on their back. I mean, they're going to get beat up at school wearing those things, right? But that's what we're up against. We can do better, and transportation choice is a big part of that.